Over 10 years ago, I started my YouTube channel. What began from middle school boredom at age 12 has turned into my full-time job at 24. And most days, it really feels like the dream, a means to share my passions and learnings with a like-minded community. With the rise of TikTok, many wonder, is it even worth it to start a YouTube channel in 2023? Is long-form content dead? While I can't predict where things will be a year or two from now, I do know that YouTube has changed my life and it can also change yours. I am a long-form content girl at my core. I love YouTube. I have enjoyed being on this journey over the last, 10 plus years, and I'm so excited to share everything I've learned so far in this video. I am not a professional. I'm not a giant channel by any means, but I do think that I have learned a thing or two about the business side of YouTube, the creative aspect of YouTube, and just everything in between. I'm gonna share tips for starting out, and then also tips on growing an audience, the equipment that I use specifically, all the behind the scenes about making money on YouTube when it comes to AdSense and brand deals, and then also I'm going to share a general Q&A at the end. I'll also have this video timestamp if you want to skip to a specific section and you just want to hear about one aspect, you can totally just skip through this video. When it comes to starting out on YouTube, I think that there's so much pressure to find your niche. Everyone talks about having a specific thing to really captivate your audience on, something that really brings your audience in that they can relate to, whether that be makeup, fashion, cooking, health, wellness. And I do think that there is some truth to that. I do think it's important to have a differentiating factor about yourself, but when it comes to actually narrowing down one thing specifically, I don't think that it is that important. Obviously, I create a lot of lifestyle content here on YouTube, but I have been in probably every single niche within that over the years. I started with makeup and fashion, even though I didn't know anything about makeup and fashion, and then I created college content, I created New York City content, and then I moved back home to Texas and started to do just more kind of simple living and health and wellness content, focusing on healthy habits. And so I've kind of been through it all. And yeah, there are times when it is difficult when you have to pivot, when you gain an audience who's attracted to one thing and that's just not your thing anymore. Those niches, especially when you're creating lifestyle content, change so much over time. I would not overthink it. I would just create content that you specifically are passionate about. And at the end of the day, people stick around for your personality more so than the specific genre of the content that you're creating. Secondly is just to know your audience. Know the kind of people that you want to speak to. Know the kind of people that, say, down the road when you actually meet subscribers in person, what do you want them to be like? I think that it's really helpful just to visualize the kind of audience that you're wanting to attract, because at the end of the day, you are creating content for them specifically. I think there is a balance. You don't just want to create videos that you know people are going to want to see, but also things that you personally are passionate about. But it's about finding that middle point, and I think it's super important to know your audience. Even when you have a very, very small audience, you're not getting a ton of views, you can still go into those YouTube analytics and see other creators that your audience is watching. I think that's such a helpful feature. See if there's a pattern within those creators. Do you want your audience to be young professionals? Are they seeking for a distraction? Are they wanting something that's calm and peaceful whenever they watch your videos? And of course, this can change over time. I think especially since doing YouTube over the years, my audience has definitely changed. Some people stuck around, some people haven't. New people have come along, new people have gone. And with that being said, don't feel pressure to overshare on YouTube. This is a question that I get a lot about, having boundaries with what you create, the kind of content. I think that this is really helpful to establish those boundaries before you gain an audience and know ahead of time, how much of my life am I comfortable sharing, because this is the internet and it can be a really scary place when your whole life is online. And so pick and choose what you want. If you've watched my videos, you know that most of my channel is pretty much about me in terms of my hobbies, my passions. Over the years, I've shared more than I share now, but right now I'm in a very comfortable place. Much of my life, I do not record and I don't incorporate into my vlogs, and that's just for me personally. Thinking about starting a family and how much are kids going to be a part of this, I think it's helpful to establish those boundaries beforehand. And of course you can learn, you can pull back, but I know that this is kind of a smaller element, but I do think it's important to establish. So say you've started and now you're looking at actually growing an audience and increasing your views. These are the things that I find to be very helpful. The first is just to create searchable content. And when I say this, I don't mean you have to be making these very specific how-to videos, but the way that you title your videos and the way that you theme them is super important. If you look at my channel specifically, I do a lot of day in my life videos, week in my life videos, and those are great. I think that those are such a great opportunity to connect with the audience that I already have and to share content that I know my core audience is going to watch. But when it comes to actually bringing in new viewers, it's so important to create that searchable content. If you compare one of those day in my life vlogs to a video I did recently on like 20 simple ways to reset for the new year, there's a big difference in views on that. And the reason is because one of those was ranked higher in the algorithm by YouTube because it was more searchable. And a lot of those videos are technically still vlogs. They're still me just taking you guys throughout my day, but the way that they are titled, the way the thumbnails are, those are very different. And so finding ways to make your content more searchable, and it doesn't have to be clickbait. You don't have to have anything sensational, anything drama inducing. You can just title your videos a little bit more creatively, making your thumbnails more readable, something that's easy to look at. If you're someone who's really into aesthetics, making it very visually appealing. It doesn't even have to be something that takes very long. It doesn't have to be made on Photoshop or anything, but just making something that you yourself would want to click on as a viewer, I think is really important. And then of course, cross promoting on other social platforms. If you have an Instagram, a TikTok, share your videos on there. I think it's really important to use those other platforms and just really boost that traffic. If you already have an audience on Instagram, you're trying to grow on YouTube, cross promote those socials. This one is also basic, but be consistent and be disciplined. It is so important to have some sort of, doesn't have to be a rigid schedule. I think when you're starting out, posting once a week is fine, but people need to know that you exist, and that takes having a decent amount of videos out there. To some extent, I do think that YouTube is a numbers game. The more videos that you have out there, the more likely one is going to catch on. From my experience personally, it really takes one video catching on to really jumpstart your channel. And so create a lot of videos, you know, find things that you're passionate about, try different things when you're first starting out. And once you find what works, be consistent. I think having an upload schedule is really helpful too, so your followers know when they can expect your posts. Also focusing on audience retention. I know that you can get caught up in just chasing views, chasing subscribers, and those things are important, but at the end of the day, YouTube cares a lot about how much of your videos specifically an audience is watching. And if they're more likely to watch a bigger chunk of that video, it's more likely to be recommended in the algorithm. And so make it somewhat entertaining. And a lot of that can come down to how you're editing videos, the music that you're using, how your videos are making people feel. Those things are really helpful for keeping that watch time up. And lastly is just to adapt. I know that a lot of people feel very strongly about not loving YouTube Shorts or the shorter form content. That is just a part of life though now. That is an aspect of social media. I haven't really jumped on this as much as I should be, but I do know that YouTube is really pushing out those YouTube Shorts, and I know a lot of us probably don't like seeing them in our subscription feed. I do think that they're valuable. I do think that there is a purpose for long form content versus short form content, but as these platforms change, it's helpful just to adapt in whatever way makes most sense for your channel specifically. Jumping into equipment, I'm going to share the things that I use personally on my channel. Of course, I make content that might be different than you. Some people love having really exceptional quality cameras, microphones, all of that. But I personally think that you can start a channel with just an iPhone. I have the iPhone 14, I just upgraded, and the quality on this is so good. And so I don't think you need any of these things, but if you're looking to upgrade, this is what I use personally. I'll have all these things linked down below. I vlog on a Canon M50. I really like this camera. I think that it does a great job of just being high quality, but also something portable that I can take on the go. I also have a Rode mic on it that's really small, and I think that this is a great vlog setup if you're just looking to start vlogging more often. I'm also using this camera for this video today. I think it's really great quality, but there are times, especially when I record routine videos or some of those more searchable videos that I want to have more of an artistic element to them, I will use a Canon 80D, and I love this camera. It is a phenomenal camera. It does such a great job, and I also have the Sigma 30mm lens on it, and these shots are just much more dreamy. This is something that I added to my collection probably like 6 months ago, and I really like that camera, so I use that one every now and then. For editing, I use Final Cut Pro. I really like it. I think it does everything that I need it to. If you're starting out, iMovie is really great too, and it's really easy to transition from iMovie to Final Cut because I would say that they're relatively similar. I know a lot of people prefer Adobe Premiere. They really like that. I think that Final Cut's kind of a good in between. I could be wrong, But yeah, Final Cut's been great. It does everything that I need it to. And music can be tricky because if you're trying to monetize your videos, it is really important to have royalty-free, copyright-free music. I use Epidemic Sound. It's a subscription service. I think it's around $50 a month, but I think it is so worth it because the music is great. A lot of the music on there are songs that I would listen to in my personal life. Music can really make or break a video, and I think it's helpful to have music that really fits the vibe that you're going for. For my videos, I really like to use solo piano, solo guitar, acoustic, folk, Motown, 1960s pop, 1970s pop. Those are all genres on Epidemic Sound, and the music is great. This is something that's really, really important for me. I will spend hours trying to find the right music for vlogs. It might not be important to everyone, but for me, I know it can really change your video for better or for worse. For thumbnails, I use PicMonkey. It is nothing sophisticated. People who use Photoshop are probably laughing, but it does everything that I need it to. I have the upgraded version. I think it's around $5 a month, but I really enjoy using it. I don't think that your thumbnails have to be perfectly cohesive. It can help if you're trying to make your YouTube channel more of a brand. But from my experience, when I've shifted thumbnails every now and then, it hasn't really been that big of a deal if they don't all perfectly match all the time. But I do try to use the same fonts within my thumbnails, and those I find on a website called defont.com. They have really great fonts. And now let's talk about money. I don't think that you should start a YouTube channel with the intention, maybe not intention, but the expectation that you're gonna make a ton of money. It can take a very long time to be profitable on YouTube, but at the same time, it can be a really great source of revenue. I know for me, this is my full-time job, and so it is something that's doable, but it takes a long time. I know most of my friends in this industry and myself started this for the pure reason of it being a hobby. I don't think it's bad to want to make money off of it, but I just want to say that in the beginning. It can also really mess with your mental health when you see that AdSense number go up and down and up and down. And so I just want to put that disclaimer in there before talking about any of this stuff. Tips for AdSense specifically, I would say to not just focus on the amount of views that you're getting. There are certain segments of YouTube that advertisers are going to pay more for, things like personal finance, digital marketing, educational content, and then more so lifestyle, fashion, beauty. Your audience retention rate factors into that, where your audience lives, the age of your audience. I'll illustrate this with my own videos. I have my laptop here. I've never really shared this stuff before, but I just think it's really interesting. Take this video that I did of Sweet Mr. Cash back there. It was a second a day of his first year of life with us, and that video has around 480,000 views, and that's a lot for my channel. I don't typically get even near that on views. That video made $600 versus take this video I did. This one's on just daily healthy habits that changed my life. This one has around 250,000 views, which is also still really high for my channel. I don't normally get close to that in terms of average views. But this video made $3,000 on AdSense, which is much more than my videos make per video. Obviously, one video has much more views than the other one does, but the kind of people watching both those videos is much different. The 1 second a day video, that one has about a 20% US viewership, has about 50-50 split on female-male viewership, and the audience retention on this is a minute, which is much lower than I normally get. But then when it comes to the habits video, that one has closer to a 50% US audience reach. It has a mostly female audience, and when it comes to audience retention, that one has about a 6-minute view duration. And so all that to say, when it comes to AdSense, it is not just about views. Of course, if you have higher views, that is really helpful, but the kind of people that are watching your videos really does impact it. I don't think you can curate that specifically. You can't help if a video goes viral and those other elements aren't there, but it also matters about the quality of the viewer, especially with how long they're watching. You don't just want to put this crazy clickbait title to get people to click on it and then click right out. You want to be getting a quality view, someone who actually enjoys the content, actually finds value in it, and I think that that is a sweet spot to be in. Making longer videos is also really helpful. That way you can put more ads in your videos. But of course, going back to view duration, you also want people to watch a lot of them. You don't just want to be posting hour-long videos for the sake of it to throw in ads. That's not good. And of course, the more ads you have in a video, the more people are going to be a little bit bothered by that. And so you don't just want to throw in ads. Again, it's all about having quality views. AdSense is also super cyclical. It depends on the market. It depends on the time of year that it is. You've probably heard creators talk about how Q4 around the holidays is a much more lucrative time because ad rates are much higher versus in January, they really come down a lot as those budgets lower. In 2020, AdSense dropped a lot. And so there are many other factors, which is why AdSense alone isn't necessarily the most stable source of income to rely on. I think it's important to have multiple streams of income with this kind of job. And also just in general, not tracking the numbers all the time, not incessantly looking at your analytics, because they go up and down so much. Again, going back to my own experience, I have lost subscribers, I've gained subscribers. I am more of a slow burner on YouTube. I'm not trying to have this crazy growth. It's obviously nice to have that every now and then, but it can really mess with your mental health when you are just checking that all the time instead of just using those analytics as a helpful tool. And it really does go up and down. You will have periods of very low views and then periods of really high views. And so just remember that whenever you're starting out. Working with brands, I could do a whole nother video on this, but I will try to share just some tips really quickly. First and foremost, if you like a brand, share them organically. It's important to get yourself on their radar. And if you're just sharing them organically and not necessarily being paid by them to share them, they're likely to come back and maybe want to work with you in the future. If you have a decent audience size, you can of course pitch yourself too and email these brands and reach out to them. I think that that's really helpful. You might get rejected, but you also might get a yes. Again, it is really a numbers game when it comes to working with brands and just making videos in general. And so put yourself out there. I also think it's helpful to sign up for affiliate programs, things like having an Amazon storefront or Like to Know It, because a lot of times when brands can see that data of, hey, I linked this shirt and 10 people bought it, and that can be helpful for actually securing, you know, bigger paid partnerships down the line. I personally didn't have a manager for a very long time when I first started out on YouTube, and I don't even think a manager is 100% necessary depending on who you are. I learned so much by negotiating my own contracts and also working in influencer marketing. So helpful just to learn what it looks like and, you know, what are the correct rates to be charging for things. And that is helpful knowledge to have before management kind of enters the ecosystem, because they are going to take a pretty big cut of whatever you're doing. And so you want to make sure that that is worth it for you. For me, ultimately, I signed with management a few years ago, and it was purely just for time, wanting to get that time back to create more videos and put more content out here. I really wanted to start doing more short form stuff and not having to spend the time to read through contracts, because you want to make sure you're reading those very diligently, making sure you're not giving brands crazy usage rights to put your content and all these ads that you should be paid for. That stuff is so important, but it also takes time. And I think if you're at a point where it makes sense to hire out, because I think the industry average for management is taking 20% of whatever your brand deals are, it's helpful to make sure that that percentage is also paying off in terms of you having more free time to create more videos or have more time with your family, you know, those things that are more important for you, instead of reading contracts and emailing and all that jazz. And if you're searching for management, I think it's really helpful just to reach out to your friends, see who they are with. On Instagram, you can go on the email tab on some of your favorite creators. Sometimes the email will actually be different managements, and that's a great way to research. Of course, some of those are still gonna be personal emails. I still have my own email on there. And then you can always just reach out to these companies and see what you think personally, see if it would work out for you. I know management is not for everyone. It can be really helpful though. There are also a lot of platforms that you can actually apply for campaigns, things like Aspire and For, those are very popular. And also from the beginning, be picky with who you're working with. You do not just want to say yes because someone is throwing money at you. You also want to keep that integrity with your audience. I am very picky with the kind of stuff that I promote on here. And also know that brands like working with smaller creators. If you feel like your audience is too small, that is not necessarily true. I know this from my last job too, that it is so valuable when you have a creator who maybe has a smaller audience, who has that trust with their audience. That is so valuable for a brand in terms of paying you to promote stuff, or just maybe sending you free stuff to promote organically. Don't think just because you are a smaller YouTuber that these things are out of the ballpark for you. It also takes time. This is not something that happens overnight. I mean, I was doing this for many years before it became a full-time income. That was in 2019 for me when I left, and it's been just such a fun ride ever since. I genuinely love this, and it's because I love creating the videos. The money is obviously an important part, especially if it is your full-time job, but at the end of the day, the passion and creativity that this brings me is ultimately so much more important. And just having that connection with my audience and really growing up with you guys on here, it's the biggest blessing. And now we're gonna finish up with a little Instagram Q&A. The first question that I got a lot was, how do you deal with negative comments? People can be so mean online. And the answer is that you are not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that is totally okay. And honestly, the sooner that you accept that principle for life in general, the happier you are. You are not trying to be everything for everyone. I think that that is such a bad philosophy to have, especially for YouTube. It's so much better to have, again, that specific vision of who you want to be watching your videos. Granted, you are opening yourself up to criticism. You're sharing your life. People have opinions. That's just who we are. We are judgmental beings. And all I can say is that you grow thicker skin over time. I think especially when it comes to the embarrassment too of, what if my friends watch? What if my family watches? I think think it's a bit more normal now in 2023. I don't think that's as big of a deal, but I know starting out, it can be brutal. I mean, I started this when I was in middle school and it was not trendy. It was not cute back then. You get used to it. But if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, you go for it. And I don't think it really matters what random people have to say about it. I also had a lot of questions about actually coming up with video ideas. And I think that it is so important to have free time in your life to really dream and feel inspired. A lot of times I will catch myself researching to see what's trendy, researching to see, you know, what the algorithm loves right now. But at the end of the day, the videos that have performed the best on my channel are not the ones that I did to be trendy. Things like I did a video on how to stop living a chaotic life. I think that video flopped initially and I was like, this was such a bad idea. I shouldn't have done this video. But that was from the heart. Those were a lot of lessons that I learned in my personal journey at that time. And that video now has performed much better than my other videos. And so yes, there is a balance of creating what's trendy, but also having that time to be inspired and think, you know, what would I want to watch as a viewer? And what would I want to see pop up on my subscription box? What would bring me joy? What would bring me just that sense of peace and calm? That is what my heart is behind a lot of these videos that I share. And even this video today, I love YouTube and I want everyone to be able to do it. And so I'm just sharing my own tips. Having that margin of time to just be inspired is so important. A lot of questions on being comfortable on camera. This is something that just comes with time. It is obviously not a normal thing to be recording yourself. One of my biggest tips is just pretend that you're filming videos when you're getting ready in the morning, when you're going on an errands run in your car. Just pretend that you're talking to the camera. I think that that is the best way to get used to it, especially for someone doing more of a lifestyle niche, vlog type content. I think just practicing vlogging when the camera's not there is really helpful. Over time, it will get more normal. It still is never entirely normal for me. It does still feel like there is this camera here. Lastly, this one was just fun. They asked what my dream brands were that I've gotten to work with. I know it's cliche, but I do love every single brand that I've worked with. I think some of the most kind of pinch me moment ones, Dyson was really huge for me. That was so much fun because you guys know I love cleaning. I love having a tidy space. And so that was just a big full circle moment for me. Atlantis Resorts in the Bahamas, that was a really, really cool one for me. I am really looking to do more travel stuff here in the future. And so that was definitely a cool one for me as well. Because I love cooking so much, Every Plate has been such a joy. They're also just such a sweet, kind team to work with. And I partner with them pretty regularly. So I really love them. Open Farm, the food that we feed Cash, also love them. They are also just really sweet and kind people. I also did The Chosen recently. That was a really special one because I just know how much that has impacted my own faith journey, relationship with God. And so yeah, I love every single brand though. I could put all of them on that list, but those are some that just come to mind. That is it for this video. This video could have been so long. There's probably so much that I've missed. YouTube has truly changed my life. I can't imagine my life without it at this point. I'm just so thankful for it. I'm so thankful for you guys for making this journey possible, and definitely wanted to share those tips if anyone else is interested in embarking on this. I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye, friends.